In the humid, bustling sprawl of Atlanta, Georgia, where summer thunderstorms hit like sudden revelations, Abdul Aziz Khan was born on November 13th, 2010. From his first breath in that bright hospital room, he became the heart of a small, hopeful world. His parents called him Aziz for short, meaning dear or beloved in Arabic, a name that matched the sparkle of curiosity in his dark eyes, even as a newborn. His father, Dr. Abdul Khan, was a devoted physician, the kind who showed up early for rounds and stayed late to ease worried patients. Medicine wasn't just a job, it was his vocation. He'd come to the United States years before, built a respected practice, and carried a calm dignity that made people trust him right away. When Aziz arrived, something deep shifted in Dr. Khan, a fierce, protective love that reordered his whole life. After long shifts, he'd hold his son close, whispering tales of distant lands and vowing a future full of possibilities. Aziz's mother, Rabia Khalid, filled their home with warmth and life. She had a quick, infectious laugh, a gift for cooking meals rich with cumin and cardamom that scented every room, and an energy that pulled people in. In those first years, the family felt whole. They lived in a modest, cozy house in a peaceful Atlanta suburb. Neighbors waved from porches. Kids played in driveways until the streetlights came on. Aziz was a bright, loving boy, quick with a smile, always eager to discover. He adored puzzles, stacking blocks into towers taller than himself, and firing off endless questions. Why do leaves turn colors? How do airplanes stay up? His parents cherished his wonder, seeing the best of themselves reflected in him. But beneath that early happiness, small cracks appeared. Like many marriages, theirs began with passion but drifted as differences grew. Finances, parenting choices, plans for the future. By 2014, when Aziz was not quite 4, they separated. The split was painful but seemed mutual at first. They agreed to shared custody, convinced they could co-parent for their son's sake. Aziz would divide his time between homes, keeping routines and bonds with both. It worked shakily for a while. The boy adapted with that quiet strength kids often have, shuttling between houses with his favorite toys and a backpack of drawings. Dr. Khan treasured his days, filling them with park outings, simple science experiments, and bedtime stories. Rabia built her own traditions, baking cookies, reading books in funny voices. Yet tensions lingered, communication frayed, accusations flew in the legal battles that followed. Claims surfaced that one parent or the other wasn't acting in Aziz's best interest. Court papers and hearings became part of everyday life. In the U.S., custody fights are sadly common and can sour fast. Stats from groups like the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC, show family abductions, where a parent or relative takes a child without permission, make up a big share of missing kids reports yearly. Most wrap up in days or weeks via talks or court orders, but when they drag on, the damage spreads wide. In this case, disputes sharpened. Dr. Khan said Rabia had leveled serious accusations against him in proceedings, claims that, if proven, would have changed custody big time. Atlanta DA investigators looked deeply. After months, they found no basis, no charges. The way cleared for custody review. By late 2017, things seemed to turn. Officials prepared to give Dr. Khan primary physical custody, citing his stability and steady presence as key for Aziz. A crucial hearing was set for November 28, 2017, the day after Thanksgiving. Restrictions on Dr. Khan's time would lift, opening regular contact again. For him, it sparked rare hope. He hadn't seen Aziz steadily lately due to limits and fights. The idea of waking his son for school, helping with homework, cheering at games. Those everyday dad moments felt close once more. Thanksgiving passed quietly. Dr. Khan reflected, planning small ways to reconnect post-hearing. He pictured Aziz's bright smile returning full force. But the day before, Monday, November 27th, everything collapsed. Rabia was due to bring Aziz for the exchange, per their setup. She never showed. Calls went unanswered, messages stacked up. Worry turned to panic. Dr. Khan reached family, friends, anyone who might know. No word from Rabia or sight of Aziz. By night, he knew it wasn't a mix-up. He went to police. Atlanta PD launched an investigation fast. Early signs pointed to intent. Vehicles tied to Rabia and her then-husband Elliot Blake Bourgeois sold quick for cash in Atlanta days before. Bank accounts closed or emptied. Phones silent. Social media gone. Classic moves for someone vanishing. Rabia was non-custodial under shifting orders. Taking Aziz without permission and crossing jurisdiction lines was parental kidnapping, a felony in Georgia. The case blew up. NCMEC got involved within days, assigning case number 1316146. They made a poster, 7-year-old Aziz, dark hair, bright eyes, open, trusting smile that tugged at hearts. Dr. Khan, stunned and grieving, refused silence. He gave authorities everything, spoke publicly when asked, always calm, always laser-focused on his son's safety. "I just want him home," he'd say, voice steady despite the pain in his eyes. Safe, no matter what. Weeks became months. Leads cooled. No solid sightings, no money trails. Rabia, Elliot, and Aziz vanished like smoke, yet the search held. NCMEC spread posters wide. Age progression artists drew what Aziz might look like at 8, 9, 10, each keeping his gentle features a haunting sign time marched on without him. For Dr. Khan, early months blurred into sleepless nights and tireless follow-ups. Holidays came empty. Aziz's 8th birthday passed in quiet pain. The father lit a small candle, whispered promises to empty air. He clung to fragile hope that the system, flawed but there, would bring his boy back. In the deafening silence after November 27, 2017, Dr. Khan's home turned into a quiet nerve center of anxiety. Police arrived swiftly, notebooks ready, asking the same measured questions over and over. When did you last speak to her? Any mention of travel, signs of distress or sudden change? He answered everything clearly, hands steady, even if they shook a little inside. He turned over phone logs, emails, court files, whatever might help. Investigators moved quickly. They verified the rapid cash sales of vehicles linked to Rabia and her husband Elliot Blake Bourgeois. No forwarding addresses, no paper trail. Bank records showed large withdrawals and account closures in the weeks before. Social media accounts, once lively, went completely dark overnight. This wasn't impulsive, it was calculated. Within the first week, Atlanta PD officially classified it as parental abduction. A felony warrant would follow, but the immediate goal was 1. Find the child. NCMEC stepped in almost right away. Analysts pored over every detail, assigned case number 1316146, and released the first public poster. 7-year-old Aziz gazed out, gap-toothed smile, eyes wide with innocent wonder. From flyers, websites, shared posts, age progression images came soon after. Forensic artists projecting what he might look like at 8, then 9, carefully holding onto the soft shape of his face, the gentle arch of his brows. Those weren't just drawings, they were lifelines, keeping the possibility of recognition alive as time passed. Dr. Khan threw himself into the effort without pause. He went to every briefing, chased every lead, however thin. Some tips came from kind strangers who thought they'd spotted a boy matching the description in a store aisle or playground. Others were cruel fakes. Each had to be run down, checked, ruled out. The emotional weight was crushing, but he wouldn't let despair settle. "He's out there," he told supporters in quiet moments. "I feel it. I just have to keep moving until we find him." As months turned into the first full year, the case settled into a grim routine. No confirmed sightings, no financial footprints. Rabia, Elliot, and Aziz seemed to have gone entirely off-grid, likely living on cash, steering clear of anything digital. The U.S. Marshals Service later joined. They're missing child unit experts in exactly these long-term parental abductions. They've recovered kids after decades in some cases, succeeding where local efforts eventually stall. A felony kidnapping warrant was issued through the Kenner, Louisiana Police Department after early leads pointed south, widening the net. For Dr. Khan, time layered new kinds of pain. Aziz's 8th birthday arrived in November 2018. He marked it alone, maybe with a small cake, no, one touched, staring at the empty chair opposite. Thanksgivings without laughter, Christmases without small feet running to the tree. He saw counselors leaned on family, but the ache stayed constant. Still, he turned it into action. When invited, he spoke at awareness events. Always calm, always steering focus back to Aziz's safety, never blame. "This isn't about anger," he said once in a rare interview. "It's about bringing my son home." Public attention rose and fell. Early news coverage faded as newer stories took over. Then, in late 2022, a major wave of visibility hit. Netflix revived Unsolved Mysteries and featured the case in an episode called Abducted by a Parent. The segment was careful and respectful. Interviews with Dr. Khan, archival photos, clear explanation of the custody history. He spoke with the same steady dignity he'd held for years, recounting the debunked allegations, the court's move toward primary custody for him, the sudden disappearance. The episode closed with a direct appeal. If you know anything about Abdul Aziz Khan or Rabia Khalid, now sometimes using bourgeois, contact NCMEC or the U.S. Marshals. Millions watched. Tips flooded in, some vague, some detailed enough to follow up. None led straight to them right away, but the exposure kept the case alive. NCMEC refreshed posters and age progressions. Aziz at 11, at 12, at 13. Each new image showed a boy growing taller, features sharpening, yet the same soft, gentle expression remained. It was one of the quiet cruelties of these cases. The child keeps aging in the world, while the search stays frozen in the moment he vanished. Behind the scenes, Dr. Khan never let go. He stayed in regular touch with NCMEC case managers, answered every law enforcement request. He joined support groups like Team Hope, connecting with other left-behind parents who knew this exact unique grief, knowing your child is probably safe yet completely out of reach. They traded strategies, shared persistence tips, swapped documentation, talked about patience. He learned the hard numbers. Family abductions make up the majority of long-term missing children cases. Most resolve fast, through legal pressure or voluntary return. But the ones that stretch into years, like this, leave deep marks. Disrupted schooling, fractured identity, isolation from half the family, years lived in secrecy. 2019 became 2020, then 2021, 2022, 2023. The pandemic made things harder. Fewer public events, people staying indoors, fewer eyes on the street. Yet Aziz's poster stayed in circulation. NCMEC's database remained active. The marshals kept the warrant current. Dr. Khan marked each milestone privately. The first day of middle school that never happened with him, the bar mitzvah age slipping past unseen. He kept small rituals alive, a photo album updated yearly with imagined moments, notes written to a boy who might one day read them. Somewhere in those hidden years, Rabia, Elliot, and Aziz lived under the radar. Investigators later pieced together fragments, possible moves across state lines, assumed names, a low-profile life. They may have settled in a quiet suburb, blending in as an ordinary family. Aziz grew from child to teenager, perhaps going to school under a different identity, making friends who never knew his real story, blowing out birthday candles without the weight of his true name. The psychological toll of such a life, cut off from one parent, possibly fed partial truths about the other, would surface later. For those searching, the silence was the hardest part. Leads dried up, interest cooled, but the machinery never fully stopped. Databases pinged for matches. Age progressions were refreshed. And one father refused to believe the story had ended. By early 2025, more than 7 years had slipped by since that Thanksgiving weekend. Aziz was now 14, no longer the small boy from the original posters, but a young teenager whose face lived mostly in artists' careful renderings. Dr. Khan, hair graying at the temples, still checked in with authorities regularly. He still believed the system, slow and imperfect as it was, hadn't given up either. Then, on a crisp Sunday afternoon in late February, in a place no one had anticipated, Highlands Ranch, Colorado, a neat, family-friendly suburb south of Denver, a routine call shattered the long quiet. February 23, 2025, began like any ordinary Sunday there. Families walked dogs along tree-lined paths. For sale signs stood in quiet cul-de-sacs. The modern 2-story house on Kelwood Way had been empty for months, windows dark, driveway bare, listed on the market. That afternoon, the homeowner, watching remotely through security cameras, noticed something wrong. Lights flickering inside, shadows moving behind curtains. Not the first time squatters had hit vacant homes in the area, but this felt different. They called the non-emergency line. At 3:37 p.m., Douglas County Sheriff's deputies arrived expecting a standard trespass or burglary, maybe a transient looking for shelter or kids messing around. They approached carefully, announcing themselves. No immediate answer. Then, in the driveway, they saw a vehicle with 2 children inside, one a teenager, the other younger. Moments later, a man and woman stepped out from the house, saying they were with a realtor, just showing the property. Their story was calm, almost practiced. But deputies are trained to check. They ran the names. What came back changed everything. The woman was Rabia Khalid, also known as Rabia Bourgeois, after remarriage. The man was Elliot Blake Bourgeois. Active felony warrants flashed across the system. Parental kidnapping from Georgia, identity theft, forgery, and more, all tied to the 2017 abduction case out of Atlanta. The older child in the vehicle matched the descriptions and photos from NCMEC Case 1316146, Abdul Aziz Khan, now 14. In minutes, the scene shifted from routine to extraordinary. Deputies stayed calm and professional. No drama, no raised voices. They separated the adults for questioning while making sure the children were safe and comfortable. The investigation stretched over 4 hours. Identities were confirmed through photographs, fingerprints, and eventually DNA. There was no doubt this was the boy who had vanished 7 years earlier, the one whose face had appeared on posters, on Netflix screens, and in the quiet prayers of a father 1,400 miles away. Aziz and the younger child, whose identity authorities protected, were taken into protective custody right away. Medical checks showed both were physically healthy, no signs of neglect or injury. They were given food, water, blankets, and gentle support from child welfare specialists on scene. Rabia and Elliot were arrested immediately. They were booked into Douglas County Jail on multiple charges: second-degree kidnapping, forgery, identity theft, providing false information to authorities, trespassing. Bond was set at $1 million each. Rabia faced 9 counts, Elliot 14, reflecting differences in how laws treat biological parents in abduction cases. Word reached the U.S. Marshals Service Missing Child Unit first. They'd kept the file active all those years. Then NCMEC was notified. From there, the chain moved quickly back to Atlanta. Dr. Abdul Khan received the call that same day. After more than 7 years of waiting, of marking birthdays with silent candles, holidays with empty chairs, he heard the words he'd held on to: Aziz is alive. He's safe. He's been found. According to later statements shared through NCMEC and family representatives, Dr. Khan's first reaction was deep gratitude, not triumph. He thanked law enforcement, the organizations that never closed the file, and especially the anonymous homeowner whose camera vigilance turned a trespass call into a miracle. "I just want to focus on my son now," he said privately. "He needs time, support, and love." The reunion unfolded slowly over the following days, carefully guided to protect Aziz's emotional well-being. Child psychologists, family court officials, and NCMEC reunification specialists oversaw every step. Supervised visits came first, short, low-pressure moments where father and son could simply share the same space. No grilling about the past. No rush to explain 7 missing years. Aziz, now a lanky teenager, with the same gentle eyes from those old photos, met his father again under kind but watchful eyes. Reports described the moments as tearful yet tender, hesitant hugs, quiet conversations, shared silences carrying unspoken questions. Reunification after long parental abductions is rarely simple. The child may have built an entire identity around the hidden life. New names, new routines, perhaps stories about why one parent was gone. Psychologists stress patience. Let the teen express confusion, anger, loyalty, conflicts without judgment. Build consistent routines, school, therapy, family time, while avoiding pressure to catch up on lost years. For Aziz, the transition included medical evaluations, educational assessments, he'd likely attended school under an alias, and counseling to process the upheaval. Dr. Khan approached it with the same calm restraint he'd shown throughout the search. Public statements stayed brief, always circling back to Aziz's needs. "He's safe now. That's what matters most. We're taking it one day at a time with professionals helping us rebuild." Extended family rallied quietly, offering support without overwhelming the boy. The focus remained on healing, emotional, psychological, relational. Legally, the case moved forward. Rabia and Elliot faced extradition proceedings to Georgia, where the original felony kidnapping warrant had been issued. Charges reflected the gravity: crossing state lines without custodial rights, falsifying documents to sustain the hidden life, deceiving authorities during the initial encounter. The court process respected due process while keeping the child's best interests at the center. Custody was reaffirmed with Dr. Khan, with ongoing oversight from child services. What made this recovery stand out wasn't a high-speed chase or dramatic raid. It was its quiet ordinariness: a neighbor noticing odd activity in an empty house, a simple call to authorities, deputies doing their job methodically, databases and warrants doing what they were built to do. The pieces aligned after 7 years because persistence met preparation. NCMEC's posters and age progressions kept Aziz recognizable. The marshals stayed vigilant. The 2022 Unsolved Mysteries episode had kept the story alive in public memory. From an educational view, the case highlights hard truths about family abductions. They rarely involve immediate physical danger, so public urgency can fade compared to stranger cases. Yet the harm runs deep. Severed bonds, identity confusion, years lived under falsehoods or half-truths. Recovery rates improve with tools like shared databases, DNA, interagency coordination, and sustained visibility. NCMEC data shows most family abductions resolve quickly, weeks or months, through court orders or voluntary returns. The long-term ones are rarer, but when they break, it's often because of small acts, a tip, a sighting, a neighbor's call. For the Khan family, February 23, 2025, closed one chapter and opened another far more delicate one. Aziz began readjusting, returning to school, likely in Georgia, reconnecting with relatives, navigating teenage life after a childhood in shadows. Dr. Khan balanced joy with caution, knowing trust rebuilds slowly. Therapists emphasize no pressure to choose sides, no forced retellings of the hidden years. Stability, routine, open communication, that was the path forward. The story rippled outward. Media covered the recovery respectfully, highlighting everyday vigilance. NCMEC used it to reinforce their message. If you see something unusual, a child who seems out of place, mismatched stories, signs of hidden living, report it. The hotline, 1-800-THE LOST, and local non-emergency lines exist for exactly these moments. One call can bridge years. As spring arrived in 2025, Dr. Khan and Aziz moved forward quietly. Birthdays would now be celebrated together. Holidays would have that extra chair filled. The ache of absence wouldn't disappear overnight, but it had begun to ease. In the ordinary rhythm of a father and son rediscovering each other, hope proved durable. The recovery of Abdul Aziz Khan wasn't the dramatic climax of a thriller. It was the quiet culmination of countless small, steady efforts colliding at the right moment. A homeowner glancing at security footage, deputies methodically checking names, databases linking dots across states, a father's unwavering cooperation over 7 long years. Together, those threads wove a safety net that finally caught a boy who had been carried away from his life. In the months after the reunion, the Khan family stepped back from the spotlight as much as possible. Dr. Abdul Khan gave few interviews, each one short and centered on gratitude rather than grievance. "We're overwhelmed with joy," a family statement read, released through NCMEC and echoed by the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. "We want to thank everyone who supported us. Now, as we navigate the next steps, we ask for privacy so that we can move forward as a family and heal together." The words captured the delicate balance, celebration tempered by realism. 7 years is not a short absence. For a child, it's nearly half a lifetime. Formative years spent in a different reality, under different rules, perhaps with a rewritten narrative about where he came from. Child psychologists who specialize in post-abduction reunifications describe the process as layered and nonlinear. The teenager who returned wasn't the 7-year-old who vanished. He had grown into someone shaped by whatever routines, schools, friendships, and explanations had filled those hidden years. There might be loyalty binds, affection for the parent who raised him, clashing with curiosity or resentment toward the one kept away. There could be gaps in education, social skills shaped in isolation, or simply the shock of suddenly belonging to 2 worlds instead of one. Therapy became essential. Trauma-informed counseling to unpack confusion without forcing confessions. Family sessions to rebuild trust brick by brick individually. Support for Aziz to voice his feelings on his own timeline. Dr. Khan embraced this patiently, prioritizing stability, consistent meals, school enrollment, familiar subjects, quiet evenings, rebuilding small rituals, shared puzzles, evening walks, legal proceedings unfolded in parallel, respectfully distant from the family's daily life. Rabia Khalid and Elliot Blake Bourgeois faced extradition to Georgia. Charges centered on felony interference with custody, parental kidnapping across state lines, identity fraud, and related offenses. Prosecutors emphasized Rabia's non-custodial status at the time of the 2017 removal, the deliberate steps to evade detection, and the impact on Aziz's right to both parents. The cases moved through due process, balancing accountability with the child's ongoing best interests. What emerged from this case, and others like it, is a clearer picture of parental abductions in America. According to NCMEC data, family abductions account for the vast majority of missing children reports each year, far outnumbering stranger abductions. Most resolve swiftly, within hours, days, or weeks, through court enforcement, mediation, or voluntary return once legal pressure builds. The long-term cases, those stretching into years, are rarer but carry outsized harm. Lost connections to half the family, identity disruptions, new names, fabricated backstories, missed cultural or religious milestones, childhoods lived in secrecy or half-truths. Yet recovery remains possible, even after decades, thanks to evolving tools, national warrant systems, DNA databases, genetic genealogy in some instances, interagency coordination, persistent public outreach. Aziz's story underscores several key factors that tip the scales toward reunion: the left-behind parents' endurance. Dr. Khan never wavered, cooperating fully, documenting violations, staying engaged with NCMEC, sharing the story selectively to maintain visibility, always with dignity, never bitterness, institutional persistence. NCMEC's ongoing posters, age progression updates, showing Aziz at 11, 13, 14, and case management kept the profile active. The U.S. Marshals Missing Child Unit maintained the warrant and coordinated across jurisdictions. Public awareness. The 2022 Unsolved Mysteries episode didn't trigger the immediate tip, but it ensured millions saw Aziz's face and story, planting seeds that germinated years later. Everyday civic awareness. The breakthrough came from ordinary vigilance, a resident monitoring cameras deciding the activity looked wrong and calling it in. No heroics, just attention and action. Deputies then did what training demands: verify, cross-check, connect the dots. These elements also highlight prevention strategies for high-conflict custody situations. Warning signs often appear early: repeated visitation violations, sudden asset sales, unexplained relocations, unsubstantiated allegations used to restrict access, or expressions of fear that the other parent might take the child, sometimes a projection. Parents spotting these patterns should document factually dates, texts, filings, seek experienced family law counsel, and if genuine safety concerns arise, involve Child Protective Services or law enforcement promptly. Courts prioritize the child's best interests, stability, emotional bonds, safety, and the ability to foster relationships with both parents when appropriate. For families already in the thick of loss, support exists. NCMEC offers free case management, posters, age progressions, reunification resources. The U.S. Marshals focus on recovery. Peer groups like Team Hope connect parents who understand the isolation. The message from all of them: keep advocating, respond to every lead request, share appropriately to sustain attention, never assume the trail is truly cold. Public vigilance plays an irreplaceable role. If a child seems out of place, different last name but matching features, evasive adult answers, mismatched stories, trust your instincts. Report anonymously if needed. Local non-emergency lines, NCMEC's 1-800, The Lost 1-800-843-5678, or text tips in supported areas. Statistics show over 90% of missing children cases resolve within the first year when someone notices and acts. Even in colder cases, modern connectivity, shared databases, facial recognition potential, widespread social media has boosted recovery odds. Aziz's return reminds us that hope endures longer than silence. 7 years stole milestones. First school dances, family gatherings, quiet father-son talks over homework. Those cannot be reclaimed wholesale, but new ones can be built. As of early 2026, reports indicate Aziz continues adjusting, attending school, engaging in therapy, slowly weaving his father back into daily life. Dr. Khan speaks sparingly but consistently of gratitude and forward motion. Healing takes time, but it is happening. In the end, this is not merely a story of disappearance and discovery. It is a testament to resilience, the father's quiet strength, the boy's adaptability, the system's capacity when pieces align to correct course. It is also a call to awareness. Family fractures can lead to profound harm, but vigilance, persistence, and compassion can mend them. To every family still waiting, cases like Aziz's offer quiet proof that recovery is possible. It may arrive through a dramatic tip, or more often, through accumulated small acts. And to every listener, reader, neighbor, if something feels off, say something. A single observation, a single call can rewrite an ending. Abdul Aziz Khan is home. Not the same home he left at 7, but a new one shaped by love, patience, and the long arc of justice. May his story inspire not fear, but action, and above all, hope.